The price of life of Russian volunteer who went to seize Ukraine was estimated at $39,000. The draft decree of compensation to relatives of volunteers, but we call them mercenaries, was prepared by the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation. The amount turned to be $25,000 less than an ordinary serviceman. His family is entitled of $65,000 for the death. For comparison, 1 day of the function of President of the Russian Federation costs the Russian budget at least $675,000. In 2023, the federal budget gave $260 million for the 1 year for this. And in historical context, of course, the criminal wanted by Haig, who unleashed the barbaric war of conquest, will cost Russia terribly expensive. More than one generation of Russia will have to pay for it. Hi everybody, it's Alex Gray, and today we got the most shocking news for today. The news from the thumbnail will be at the end, so watch it full, but for starters, no less interesting news. The share of the Russian oil in the European market decreased by 8 times after the start of the Russian invasion to Ukraine, from 28% in pre-war month to 4% by the end of 2022. This is European Union data. Now, the main supplier for the European Union is USA, 18% of total imports, and Norway, 17%. At the same time, China and India became the main buyers of the Russian oil, but at prices significantly lower than European ones. As a result of the loss of European market, Putin achieved a drop in the budget revenues of Russian Federation by 38% in January 2023, compared to January last year, and by 48% in February 2023. And the hole in Russian budget has grown to a maximum since the late 90s. Putin will definitely go down in history as an inexplicable and very bloodthirsty misunderstanding that managed to destroy everything in general. And also Russia got a big loss in the gas exports thanks to USA that blown up the Nord Stream 2. We cannot definitely say that it was done by USA, but because no one in the USA government admitted, only journalists talk about this. About a third of the Russian budget may additionally go to the war. The Russian authorities has classified more than 30% of federal budget expenditures for the period from the beginning of 2023 to March 24. This is a record figure, Bloomberg writes. During this period, expenses for a total of $31 billion remain unknown. Compared to the last year, the closed part of the budget has doubled over the same period. The agency assumes that secret expenses include spending on the war with Ukraine. Meanwhile, all over the country, humanitarian aid for the military continues to be collected from impoverished Russians. School children are forced to make trench candles, and the money is deducted from salaries at enterprises to help the participants of the special military operation. Instead of improving life of their own country, where there are no roads, hospitals, and toilets in the homes, huge resources are spent on the senseless war of conquest and the destruction of the life of the neighboring country. Against the background of growing losses and cemeteries in the regions of Russian Federation, they continue to recruit new cannon fodder for the front. In Ufa, mobile points in shopping centers are advertising for the contract. Military commissars talk about the service and distribute booklets. In Novosibirsk region, contract workers are recruited directly from the cars. In Kamchatka, men are invited to sign a contract for military service through a Russian National Guard. Earlier, Bloomberg reported that the Russian authorities are launching a large-scale recruitment campaign to replenish troops at the front, whose losses, according to the Western data, exceeded 200,000 people killed and wounded, and Kremlin has set a task to attract 400,000 contract soldiers and volunteers to the armed forces and has sent orders to the regions. During the war in Ukraine, 5,000 pardon prisoners who served under the contract in the Wagner private security company returned to Russia. The head of the criminal group, Prigozhin, said 5,000 criminals with experience in killing, weapons, and PTSD. Earlier, the Ministry of Internal Affairs reported that since the beginning of the war, the numbers of weapons-related crimes in border regions of Russia has increased by 50 times. in January 2023 compared to the January 2022. In addition, according to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, for 11 months of 2022, the numbers of gun crimes in Moscow increased by 247%. The first person attracted for military fakes in Russia, turns out, was attracted for telephone conversation with relatives. Conversations on the phone were considered public because they were listened by an employee of a special service. Earlier, citizen of Moscow Yuri Samoilov was detained on the denunciation of a subway passenger who saw a picture with the Ukrainian symbols in the Samoilov's phone. He was involved in an article about the dissemination of the extremist materials. The denunciation of the Samoilov was written by a subway passenger's name Yermakov, and the main news from the thumbnail. So it's time to hit like and listen to the main news. The prosecution requested 7 years in a penal colony for a pensioner from Moscow for 2 comments on the Russian social media of Kontakte about the war. According to Mediazona, 62 years old, Mikhail Samoilov is accused of publishing 2 posts on Vkontakte in March 2022 about the bombing of Kiev and the drama theater in Mariupol. In comments in particular, there are such phrases: "Killing children and women, we sing songs on a Channel 1. We, Russia, have become godless, forgive us, Lord." And Russian pilots are bombing the children. Thus, the investigation claims that he misled readers about the legality of actions of the Russian armed forces. Meanwhile, the Novosibirsk's ex-deputy of the United Russia, Sergei Mamontov, who knocked down a child and fled from the scene of the crime, received only 10 months of correctional labor in October 2022. Mamontov ran over a 6-year-old boy in a yard and disappeared. A criminal case was opened against him, but United Russia Party paid the child's parents and they took the application back. So again, hit the like, subscribe for more, comment down below what you think about it, share with your friends, tell me how do you like that format. This was Alex Gray, and goodbye.